Yesterday, I overheard a conversation in the religious section of a bookstore that left me deeply unsettled. To put this into context, I was standing on the other side of the aisle in the philosophy section, and I could hear these two men talking. I glanced through to see who it was, and of course, it's two white men. And these two men spoke casually about no longer wanting to follow politics because it was all bad news, and because no news source could be trusted anymore. But in the same breath, they discussed their pew-pews and their fear of losing that freedom. They spoke about the unrest in the world as proof that the end times were coming. They framed the global suffering as a result of people not following the Bible. And they described Christians as being persecuted while blaming other religions such as Islam for much of the world's problems. And what disturbed me the most wasn't simply the content of the conversation, it was the ease in which it was spoken. They had so much confidence, so much certainty that they were right. And they had the complete absence of self-reflection. It became abundantly clear that these two white men could afford to disengage from politics because the system still protects them. And this is part of my feminine rage. It's like their bodies aren't being legislated. Their safety is not debated, although they think it is because they think that everything's being threatened by our southern border. They think the reason they're not thriving as white men in America is because of immigrants. And as white men, their identities are not being politicized. Their orientation is not being questioned, or rather demonized. See, opting out of politics is a luxury available only to whom this disengagement carries no consequences. Must be nice for them. But what I realized that I witnessed, it wasn't faith. It was spiritualized entitlement. There's a particular danger in framing injustice as prophecy instead of responsibility. When suffering is labeled as end times, it no longer demands action because it's God's will. When unrest is blamed for moral failure rather than systems of power, accountability disappears. When faith becomes like a shield for self-examination, it stops being sacred and starts being used as a weapon. The whole thing gave me the ick because this is how patriarchy survives. It's not always through overt cruelty, but what I noticed is these men's certainty came without humility. These men believed that they are righteous while refusing to acknowledge their own power, therefore refusing to examine how this power, dominance, and fear shape their worldview, because they don't believe that the world is ending through greed, violence, or exploitation. They think the world is ending because people refuse to obey. And while I thought I was angry at overhearing this, the profound feeling I feel is grief. I feel such grief that faith has been used to justify disengagement rather than compassion. I feel grief that those who are insulated from harm have the privilege to speak so candidly and confidently about collapse while remaining essentially untouched by it all. I feel grief that the same systems that demand submission from women and marginalize people offer comfort and authority to those already in control. These men acted so confidently that they were voicing spiritual leadership, but it really was the voice of fear, masked as righteousness. It verified why I stepped away from this religious control. It's why I have deconstructed a previous faith that no longer, and never really actually did, work for me.